thought I was 5 minutes early. Well, that's because your watch is on British Summer Time. I don't believe in using it anymore as it's obsolete. Yes, I've seen that video by CGP Grey. Anyway, why did you call me? Yes, I need your help with something. When I say so, hold down any blue button. I've got to ask, which button did you press? Ugh. That's the black button. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I mean, you made the shade of blue so dark it's hard to distinguish the two. Well, that's right, the thing. But I had a feeling that this might happen, so I created a machine that will monitor the NDI. Why didn't you just activate the machine in the first place? Now that the IDM's well, kaput, it will make the job harder. The machine only monitors the MDI and the deadlock if the MDI is unable to work. In this case, being blown up. Can you pass the keyboard? Oh, right. Thank you. That should be it. The machine should be able to work, should be able to think and operate by itself. Right, that should get the gears turning. So, this machine is an autonomous computer. Indeed it is. However, this computer will not be corrupted by viruses. It works via mechanics. Let me just get the blueprints. Well, it's not really blueprints to say. It's just notes. You see that big copper thing below the starter key? Inside that is a smallest, more streamlined version of the Babbage engine. I see. Have you curated a name for the machine? Well, I did think of the NDI CPU, the Mental Division Inducer Central Processing Unit. Seems a bit of a mouthful. Why not use a regular name? What did you really think of as, well, what do you suggest as a name? Well, I've always liked the name Montague. Ever since I saw that episode of Thomas the Tank Engine which introduced Duck, Montague was his real name. Not a bad name. I'll key it in as the main form of identification. Ident alpha Montague. How exactly does Montague get his power? It doesn't seem that he's linked to any mains. I've got the others. I've got the. Well, the fact is, the machine is able. Well, the answer to that question is that the machine is able to convert electromagnetic radio waves into AC electric current, much like a crystal radio. It's running slow because I haven't created an antenna long enough to gather enough electricity for it to work at full speed. I also need to install both the I also need to install both the voice modulator and the vocal command system. So far I have to key in commands via the keyboard and receive results via the printer. The data will take some time though, given the fact that it hasn't got full power. If it did, then it would work at a tremendous pace. Do you need any more help? Well, no, not really, but there is one thing I'd like to show you. You've created a gun out of copper. Not created. If I had, then it would have been neatly polished. You can see that there's somewhere to it. Well, where did you get it from? It's hard to explain, really. I just found it here in the garage. It appeared right out of nowhere, right there. I've been studying it. It's one of the few things that I started work on Montague. I started with Montague. That was when he wasn't fully up and running. I've got the data here. From what could be translated, it's called a delta photon blaster, or a delton blaster for short. It fires photon particles of a new type of radiation called delta radiation. Properties of it are unusual to most ionizing radiation. It doesn't pose any threat to living matter, and it acts differently if the frequency of the gun is changed. Who or whatever made this must have been very advanced scientifically. I haven't been able to test and note down all of the different settings due to the fact I've been working on other projects. The gun is currently on setting 1, where the photons act much like a bullet. To change the settings, hit the bottom of the gun's hand grip. One thing to note, as this is radiation, you won't be able to see it. You'll just hear the noise and the results of the photon particles. Are you going to create copies of this weapon to create an arsenal or something? Indeed, I'm going to be calling it the Armory of Enlightenment, given the fact that you're an enlightened monarch. Keep working on it. Come in. I've got the results from Montague's scan. And, well, it's rather unusual. I can't understand it. The readings say that the machine was not broken, in the explosion, and the Deadlock seemed to have disappeared.
Disappeared?
The more baffling thing is that it seemed to have disappeared weeks ago. Why didn't you check the Deadlock while you were making Montague? Well, why didn't you check the Deadlock before you switched Montague on? I did, but that was before I'd actually started building Montague. It must have vanished while I was building him. Well, if the Deadlock's gone, can't you reverse the machine's effect? Sadly, no. It seems that our minds become so used to these bodies that if I try to reverse the MDI, then our minds will reject the one body created, and we won't be able to return to these bodies that were created for us, because the brains would have died. That sounds like that episode in Doctor Who Series 2, when the Doctor and Rose visited New Earth. It must be a coincidence. But anyway, as the Deadlock is no longer there, then Montague doesn't really have a purpose. I've got codes to reprogram him, but I'll need your permission to do so.
Be my guest.
Thank you, Your Majesty.